Welcome to the Brian Wright Show audio experience, a podcast dedicated to transforming lives, careers, and businesses. And now your host. He's a husband, father of two, an international business and life coach, the founder and CEO of New Patient Group and WrightChat, and a consultant and global speaker for some of the finest companies in the world, such as Invisalign and many others. Now, here's your host, Brian Wright.
I met this doctor one time, and we sat down, and we were having this long business conversation. It was after an event that I spoke at. He pulled me aside. We ended up having a cocktail, decided to have food. We spent hours together, and one of his goals was, hey, Brian, I want to sell more clear aligners. You know, I do Invisalign. I want to sell more Invisalign. How do I do it? Help me do it. Blah, blah, blah. We had this long conversation because obviously that's never a one answer. This is how you do it. There's a whole list of moving parts. As you all know, we teach so much on here. And eventually he buys an on-site workshop. I go in there, I spend some time with him. And I noticed some things about the treatment coordinator and two of the assistants is they're wearing braces. And I say to myself, well, that's interesting. You know, here's a practice. And you know, one of the things I've found out over the years about this job is things that sometimes you can take for granted that people know. And when they don't, you know, we have a really cool podcast coming up. It's I wouldn't call it a series, but I'm going to do a few of them on the multi-million-dollar leaky hole that you may never thought about. And there's multiple in all of your businesses, but I'm going to relate it back to really three things. And it's a really big sales mistake so many of you make out there. And for a while, I didn't do that podcast because I didn't realize what an actual leaky hole it is. And recently I have, and I realized that it is in so many different businesses, big in our niche out there in orthodontics and dentistry, but also in all the other businesses that we help outside of it. It's a huge sales mistake that when plugged, you really, really can add a lot of revenue, a lot of new customers overnight. So I look forward to that, but that's an example of this one too. As I looked around, I'm thinking, okay, here's a doctor that wants to start more clear aligners. And I'm looking at his team and they're in braces. And if you're outside our niche out there, you don't know this, but every time you go and buy Invisalign from a practice, depending on how many case submissions to Invisalign, there's a lab fee that comes with that, right? So a doctor could be paying $1,800 as a lab fee for your case. They might be paying $800, $900, or somewhere in between, but there's a lab fee. So when you look at assistant A and assistant B that are wearing braces, and then you look at the treatment coordinator that's wearing braces, I start to think to myself, wow, this is one of the biggest lost opportunities on the planet to start more clear aligners. You know, here is a practice that wants to do more aligners, but they're putting their employees in braces, and why? And you all know the answer to this is the doctor wants to avoid the lab fee. So here's the doctor, business owner, nickeling and diming, you know, tripping over dollars to pick up pennies because he doesn't want to get hit with the lab fee, but now is missing out on one of the greatest marketing opportunities there is. And that's his own team telling the story of how great the experience is in aligners, how great the doctor is, how great the convenience that the aligners bring to the table that braces can't. And I'm sitting there talking to the doctor. He's like, yeah, you know, we were back talking in his office, and they're like, yeah, that's why I did it. And now that I hear you talking about this, you're right. It's an asinine mistake. I can't believe that I did that. And this is so true. One of our favorite Italian restaurants that we used to eat at is back in Houston, and Beto, the waiter there, was one that we always would request. And you know, we would became really good friends, and we would get into some really good business discussions. And one of the things that Italian restaurant does is every single day they have several breaks for their waiters to go into this room, and the room is glass, so all the tables can see it. Part of the meeting is during non-business hours. and they have the time block like we teach all of you to have. And then there's some other meetings while the tables are being set and the waiters are seeing the tables and people are being served. Well, you would get into these conversations with Beto, and they were really intriguing because you could tell this restaurant got it. The things I'm about to discuss are things that we bring and install into restaurants. And again, it's one of the reasons we rebranded this podcast into the Brian Wright Show, because whether you want to start more aligners or whether you want to sell more food at the table, right? We want to sell more of our specials than the on menu items. We want to sell more of our wine than water, you know, whatever it is, it's all the same. It's just learning how to use your imagination and how it applies in different environments. So, what the waiters would do is they would get in there with the chef, and the chef would have them taste all the specials for that afternoon. And then for the waiters that were coming in the evening, they would do it again and they would taste what are the specials for this evening if they were different or if it was a different waiter that came in. And the chef would sit there and teach them, okay, this is how we're going to sell this. Like they were educating the wait staff on where the food was sourced, where it was shipped in from, the art of how it was cooked behind the scenes, why it was so exceptional. And many of you have probably been to a restaurant where you ask the waiter, you know, how are the oysters, as an example. And the waiter's response is I don't know, I've never had them. Right. Or it's the special for the evening. And the waiter, matter of fact, I just got back because I shoot this podcast today. Dr. Ross Russell, shout out, man. I just got back from their practice, and we go out with his wife, who's the treatment coordinator. We go out to this restaurant, this Italian place, and it's a really cute place. It's in a cool little downtown. The ambiance of the place is great. Food was good. And I had asked the waiter, do you have any specials tonight? The waiter goes, oh, well, that's what that piece of paper is right there. Just sitting there going, you know, Ross, it never ends, man. I mean, everywhere I look, there's another example of a leaky hole with people that are just losing millions that will never be able to put their finger on it because nowhere are their statistics ever going to show it to be a problem. And a little bit later, I asked him how, I think it was a filet or a T-bone, some kind of red meat that was on there. I asked the waiter how it was. And he goes, oh, yeah, it's good. I'm sitting there again, you know, we're talking at dinner. Like, look, this is one of the hardest skill sets and the best skill set you'll ever learn for sales is edification, art of bragging, making sure that you can enlighten people on why a certain thing is better than other options. And so many restaurants fall short of that. So back to Beto and this Italian restaurant is they would go in there, they would all get on the same page on how to educate it. They would all taste it. So therefore, whenever they went to the tables, they could be a storyteller. And stories, everybody, you know, features of a product are great. You know, the details of a product are great. Nothing, and this is not what today is about, but it very well could be, nothing compares to a story. And nothing compares to a story that your team can tell a prospective customer or one that already is a customer that you're trying to upsell, get a referral from, have them, whatever. Nothing compares to storytelling. It is what gets me invited back to speak all over the world, is being able to get up on stage and being able to tell stories and relate it back to whatever we're talking about. It's what is growing our podcast is the storytelling, and being able to take really any scenario and teach you how to apply it to any business that wants to improve experiences, improve sales, improve referrals, improve all the things we all want to improve about our businesses. So as I got to know Beto better and we went to this restaurant, you know, I became really intrigued, actually sat in on a couple of these meetings because it's such a beautiful thing when you come across a business that gets it, that understands, you know, most restaurants, and this is just like most of you out there in our niche, most restaurants, unfortunately, look at numbers the exact same way, meaning that most restaurants don't do what I just described this Italian restaurant doing with Beto and the other waiters. And they don't because their food costs go up. You know, if you have 25 waiters and you've got two concierges up front as an example, and you're feeding everybody, right? That's a lot of extra plates of food. So on your data sheet, it's going to say, hey, your food costs went up. Or it's going to say you had a lot of food go out the door, nobody paid for it, right? It's not going to show the increase in revenue. So a lot of finite thinkers that so many of you hear me talk about on here, looking at the data are like, no way, I'm not going to give that food to the waiters. Meanwhile, what we teach restaurants, and meanwhile, what the very successful restaurants do, whether we're working with them or not, is what I just described, making sure their waiters are storytellers, making sure the waiters can go to the tables educated to be able to tell the story about the food. And therefore, what is the result is you're going to sell many more specials for the evening. And that far offsets letting your waiters try the food. And see, this is the exact same thing in our niche, going back to how I began the story and talking about just this doctor that wants to sell more Invisalign, but is making the mistake that so many restaurants do, looking at paper going, well, I mean, if I'm going to put Timmy, Susie, and Nancy into this thing, then, that's $4,800 or $5,200 or $3,000, whatever the hell the number is. And unfortunately, that's how so many of you out there look at it. And it drives me crazy because it is not just you and our niche. It is almost every business that we ever go in to help. And, when we work with really successful restaurants and they bring us in to take them to a whole nother level, a lot of those restaurants already do these things. It's now, how do you tweak it? How do you enhance it? How do you train the waiters to speak about it in a different way? Right. And a lot of other things as well. But all of you, I hope you can understand that if you're wanting to do more clear aligners, or let's say you're a practice and you want to do more braces, right? Then that makes sense to put braces on your people. If you're a practice wanting to do more clear aligners, you have to put your people in clear aligners. Like, listen to how crazy it is that you want to try to convince your patient base or people that you want to become a patient. How crazy is it that you're putting your team in braces, yet trying to tell your patients they should be in Invisalign or whatever clear aligner you want them in? I mean, in many respects, that's like the waiter sitting down at a table with a family of three that's sitting there, and the waiter sits down with something on the menu to eat. Meanwhile, tries to convince the family to all buy the specials and spend $30 more a plate. Listen to how crazy that is. That would never work in the restaurant industry, and it's not going to work inside your practice either. Hey everybody, Brian Wright here. Hope you're enjoying today's episode. Let's step away for a second. Got a really cool announcement that I certainly am excited about. And it's a boot camp that I'm going to be delivering all around advanced sales skill sets using the greatest sales tool through experience ever created in our niche, the iTero machine. This course is going to dive into some major advanced things that you most likely didn't even know the iTero could do. Going to teach you how to use all of those features based on what type of exam you're sitting in front of. Look, an important sales, not about, this podcast is not about this today, but all of you, this rings true, no matter what industry you're in our niche or out, is that people don't care what they need until you've convinced them you're the place to buy what they want. And there is no better tool on the planet to do that with in the exam room than the iTero machine. I'm going to be teaching all team members how to use the iTero machine via how their role applies in your office, right? Yes, receptionist, clinical assistants, once people are in treatment at the refinement appointment, how we can reshape that, the start appointment, how we can transform that, your doctor exam, your TC exam. It's going to be for everybody in the office, and it is going to transform your conversion. It's going to transform your starts and revenue. And really, most importantly, it's going to teach you how to engage when getting people engaged and focused is harder than ever before. So I'm going to put the link to subscribe to register below. Hope to see you and your team there. And now let's get back to today's episode. Guys, that's asinine. It makes absolutely no sense. And, during the sales process, and this goes for your receptionist, this goes for all of your people. During the sales process, how are your people going to walk up to the tables and really sell and edify how beautiful the specials are, where the food was sourced. Like, you've got to try this. The experience is so amazing. And we've got the perfect bottle of wine to pair with it. Let me talk to you about it. Like, how can you train them to ever be great at these things when you don't let them taste the food? How can your team, how can your employees ever be great at telling stories about how much better Invisalign is in treatment than braces? How much more convenient it is, how much less painful it is, how much more streamlined it is, how much quicker, as long as the doctor knows what they're doing, how much quicker it can be than braces, how it didn't disrupt your lifestyle because you didn't have to come in as much. Right? How in the world can you ever expect your team to become great sellers like that whenever you're putting them in braces, not Invisalign? And you wonder why your conversion's down, or the family that was there in your practice yesterday walked out and didn't buy from you. Is these are the leaky things, these silent saboteurs. Like, Joey's sitting there, little Joey, in the treatment exam, watching your treatment coordinator in braces talk to him about how great Invisalign is, and they should be comfortable doing it. They're already confused. They're shopping at multiple practices. They're shopping all over the place. They're calling all over the place. And these things, I'm telling you, are conversion killers. Now, if you're a practice that doesn't really give a damn whether you do more braces or more aligners, if you're a practice, like I said, like earlier, that you just want to do more braces, uh, is this going to kill you? No, but it's still something. Again, today is not about Invisalign. Today is not about something singular. It's about a whole broader perspective, if you will, on how you need to look at things, numbers, the leadership inside your office, why your people need to be trained. This Italian restaurant that I've been referencing today would also have their waiters taste the desserts. And throughout their journey there, they would taste everything on the menu, because what you never want is a waiter that can't say, yeah, I've tried that, it's awesome. Or, hey, look, I've tried that, it's really good, and I think it's an excellent option. I think this one over here, I think, is even better and will take your experience to another level, and you'll be really glad you went with it. But you'll be happy with both, right? So they're not going to downplay something. They're going to upplay the other thing. Right? So they're educated on the whole menu. They're taught how to roll. They're taught how to sell it at the tables. I mean, I think I said this at the beginning, how many times you've been to a restaurant and the waiter says, I don't know, never had it, I got to go find out, something like that, right? There is a sign that the restaurant doesn't get it, right? It's the same thing in all of our niches world, and all of you out there, you constantly are going back to what you hear me talk about here all the time. You are constantly going back to more advertising, more advertising. Our problem is not enough calls. Our problem is not enough calls. Meanwhile, you have leaky holes all over the place, just like this practice. And obviously there were other, during the workshop, and I was taking notes, there were several. And a lot of them, no matter what practice you go into, it's the same leaky holes. Is a lot of things are happening every single day, and it's some of it is you don't know what you don't know. Others are other things, but the greatest salespeople ever are storytellers. They are absolutely brilliant at telling stories and bringing their product, their service, whatever it may be, back into that story, relating it back to the story. And whether you're a restaurant that really gets it, like this Italian place that has all their waiters taste the desserts, and then the tray is brought out to the table, you can visually see them. And the waiters are so educated because not only do they describe the desserts and edify to the desserts, they're made in house, but they also can say, based on the meal you had tonight, let me narrow it down to 2 for you. You're not going to be disappointed. There is an art to all of this. And if your waiters aren't educated and they're not role played with and they're not trained how to do all of this stuff, your sales are going to suffer. The experience, really more importantly, is going to suffer for the table, because these are things that make great restaurants, not just the food. Just like back to our niche, right? It's great experiences that make the orthodontic practice, the dental practice. It's not just the clinical. It's everything combined that creates the fan. And if your people can't tell the story, how in the world do you think they're going to be able to sell more Invisalign? I mean, think about it. You're a mom, you have a couple kids, you have a patient in front of you in the exam that's a mom, has a couple kids, and they're in between whether or not they want to do aligners or not. And you have a TC and braces, right? But if you have the TC and aligners, now we can tell a story. You know, Mary, I'm a mom just like you. And I've got a busy lifestyle just like you. You're driving your kids all over the place to practice. That's kind of my life outside of work here, too. And I went the Invisalign route, I went the clear aligner route, and it's a game changer. So much more convenient. And I got to tell you, if your kids were my kids, I'd be saying, hey, let's go with Invisalign. And there's more to that. But you can see how, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's inside your practice, whether it's this, whether it's that, guys, the philosophies are the same. The mindset has to be in a way where you can see these things. You have to be a leader. How you can't see this? I mean, come on. Of course, the second one I just said there is more powerful in being a storyteller, in being relatable. It's hard to be relatable when you're sitting there with brackets on your teeth trying to say, well, aligners weren't good enough for me, but I think you should go with Invisalign. I mean, come on. So you're sitting there saying, the $3,800 or the $5,000, I don't want to afford that. I'm going to slap them into braces. Now, you've got a family sitting there with somebody that has braces on trying to tell them Invisalign's the thing for you. It makes absolutely no sense. You've got an assistant in the back with braces on trying to tell the patient, hey, kiddo, you know, when sister starts here, she should go with clear aligners, right? It is crazy, everybody, all because you want to save a few bucks on the lab fee. It makes absolutely no sense. Your people, they need to taste the food inside your practice. You get the analogy. They've got to be educated about the options, cross-trained, all the things that we talk about on here. But most importantly, relating to today's message, is that they've got to be able to tell their own story about being in treatment with the doctor they work for. They've got to be able to edify that clear aligner experience. And I hope all of you, this rings true and you make this adjustment. And really, there's a lot of embedded messages in today's podcast. It's not really just about, it's also looking at your numbers differently. Like, this is how so many of you out there just sabotage your success personally and professionally because of how you're looking at data. I love people that are like, well, I can analyze the data and tell you the problems right away. And I sit there and I go, okay, you know, on one hand, you can look at data and you can look at production, collections, conversion, no-shows. The list goes on and on. And yeah, you can tell the leaky holes. But just like we talk about so much on here, are the biggest leaky holes don't show up on any data sheet in the world. The 3 missed new patients because Susie, the receptionist, wasn't able to answer it because she's on the phone with something else or she's dealing with a patient, right? Your law firm out there, right? Your restaurant gets an incoming phone call with an inquiry about should I schedule or not. We're shopping between 2 steakhouses and you don't answer the phone. And hundreds others. And it's the same way here where nowhere in your data sheet are you going to see that you're not growing your Invisalign business because you look at numbers all whacked out and you put Susie, Timmy, and Joni or Joey in braces. And then now they're sitting there trying to tell the family clear aligners are for you. Well, the clear aligners are for me. Why are you wearing braces? Right. Or, you know, Beto the waiter. So you haven't tasted the specials. So how do you know they're good? It is so similar in so many businesses out there. And it's a leaky hole, everybody. It's these silent saboteurs that we talk about over and over and over and over again on here that can bring you down, and you have to be investing. You've got to be investing in your waiters' knowledge. You have to be investing in training them. You have to be investing in making sure they're tasting all of your food. They're educated in a way that they know everything about the menu, that they can sell it through edification at the tables, just like all of our people out there in our niche. You've got to be able to educate your team. You've got to invest in educating your team. You have to invest in getting your team trained on an ongoing, repetitive basis. You've got to invest in their knowledge. You've got to invest to make sure that they can sell your product and teach people why they should see more value in it and why you're better and more unique. Period. Outside of culture, training your people is always the best marketing investment, more than anything you will ever do outside your doors. And the great thing is there's only a few percentage points of people that can ever get that about their business. And that's why those businesses are called famous, because that's how they all do it. You're never going to go to a Michelin star restaurant and have their waiters not having taste everything on the menu, the dessert specials for that night, the food specials for that night, the drink specials for that night. You're never going to, but you go to 99.9% of all of the restaurants and they don't do it. And they don't do it because they think it costs more, or their problem is advertising. It's the same way in our niche. Same way in our niche. Very few times, since I wasn't really something that I paid a lot of attention to. And this has been many, many years ago now. And ever since I've paid attention to it like crazy, is how many practices I'll go in and I'll see the employees in braces. And it just blows me away when it's a practice that has aspirations to do more aligners. And it's just a matter, going back to everybody, if you're constantly thinking experience and how that relates to sales. Do you think it makes sense for your ultimate salesperson, your treatment coordinator, to be sitting there with brackets on their teeth trying to convince mom and daughter to go with Invisalign? It makes absolutely zero sense. And I got one even better than that, with all the studies showing people are calling 5 or more practices. What if your receptionist answers a call and they say, hey, do you do Invisalign? Do you do clear aligners? How much does it cost? Does my insurance cover it? All the inquiries that receptionists are getting more and more. Just like we say, your ultimate sales machine is the treatment coordinator and the receptionist now. It is the same exact role. All of you in any business out there should understand your phones play as big of a role, if not bigger role, in the sales process than any other position you have, even though they're not usually called salespeople, or they're not in a sales role, air quotes. But if you're receptionist, if you put Janice in braces to save a few bucks on the lab bill, now she can't sit there and say, hey, those are great questions. Let me talk to you about it. I'm actually in Invisalign myself, and thank God I trusted this doctor. I mean, he is amazing. He has treated thousands of cases, and it has gone so beautifully well for me and my family. I'm a busy person outside of work. Like, go through the spiel as you're answering the questions. Right? Can you imagine? Well, I'm actually in braces, so I really can't answer that. But again, going back to the waiter analogy. Well, I've never tasted it, but I've heard it's good, right? Not even close to the same. You can relate it no matter what type of entrepreneur, what type of business you are out there, employees listening. This rings true personally and professionally in so many different ways. The greatest marketing opportunity all of you have is teaching your people to become storytellers. And they can't do it when they know nothing about the food, or they're not wearing the aligners when you want them to tell aligner stories. You've got to reshape your mindset. All right. As always, I appreciate your support. Hopefully this rings true. It's a lesson about so many things, so many different things, from how you're looking at numbers to your leadership skills, your mindset, your salesmanship, how you're training your people, on down the list. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, hey there, appreciate the following. As always, give this a thumbs up, make some comments, get some dialogue going. Remember, if you have a question, plenty of other people do too, and they may just be afraid to ask it. So make sure to ask it for us on there and get the dialogue started. Audio experience channels, we keep growing like crazy. All major outlets out there, make sure to give us a 5-star review. Share this with friends, family, colleagues, anybody looking to transform their life, career, and or business. Hope everybody enjoyed today. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.